inside, but we'll tell you a bit more about the Indian sandalwood on the way back. And here on Pack Saddle Plains, they do grow watermelons and pumpkins. Below us at the moment we'll have some corn, and around the corner there's also some chia seed or sorghum, and sorghum. Something interesting about the watermelon is that with the watermelons it only takes 86 days from planting that seed to picking the fruit, which I think is quite amazing considering it has to grow a plant before it even starts growing a piece of fruit the size of a watermelon. Below us we've got some corn or maize. There's a bit more around the corner. You can see this crop is starting to dry out. They'll really let it dry out another month or two before they harvest that maize, and they take it over to the port of Wyndham and load it onto anything upstream of it in this section in Lake Kununurra is all freshwater, so you may come across some freshwater crocodiles, but they're generally considered quite timid. They'll only attack you if you are aggravating it. But the two primary uses for the Ord obviously provides irrigation for the Kununurra area, part of the Ord River irrigation scheme. Also provides electricity for the region. That's why the hydroelectric power plant only starts flowing once Lake Argyle does reach capacity, and after the very strong wet season that we recently had, and with a bit of assist from the rain in late June, early July, the lake is still at full levels. But there were sections of the spillway that reached water flow speeds of up to 40 kilometres per hour, and that was during the floods of April 2011. Did quite a lot of damage to the banks down there. A lot of trees got blown out as well. But if you have a look down there on the right where it meets Lake Argyle, there's a little concrete dam wall that was built in 1996 that serves as a spillway wall. So yeah, the idea is once the lake reaches capacity, water spills over, causing the spillway creek to flow. When that wall was built, it pretty much doubled the capacity of Lake Argyle from 5,000 gigalitres to about 10,700 gigalitres, what it is today. That's about 18 Sydney Harbours. On the right hand side of the aircraft, you can see that white building that is closest to us there. That is the Durack Homestead Museum. Interesting story of the Duracks. I'll come a bit later on when we're out over the lake. But also on the right hand side where the dark green trees are, that's a Lake Argyle tourist village built in 1968 to house the workers of the Top Dam project, and since has been converted into a lovely caravan park featuring one of the most stunning infinity pools that overlooks out into Lake Argyle. Plenty of activities to do out there. You got canoeing, kayaking, stand-up paddleboard hire, as well as boat cruises that go into Lake Argyle. Most popular of those being sunset dinner cruise. That's also coming into view on the right is the Top Dam, and that was built in 1972. Took 2 dry seasons to complete. The dam wall is 335 metres long, 98 metres high down to the base of the wall underneath the water. Is considered one of the world's most efficient dams due to the immense amount of water that it holds back from Lake Argyle. Just to the left of the wall you can see the V cut. Literally looks like the letter V carved out of the terrain, and that serves as the emergency overflow for the lake. Also served as the quarry for the Top Dam, and also home to the Southern Hemisphere's largest non-nuclear explosion. You can imagine OH&S wasn't that much of a consideration those days. One of the workers thought it'd be a good idea to ignite fuse charges with cigarettes. You can imagine it didn't work out too well for him. But I'm sure you can now see we're coming out over Lake Argyle now, and this is Australia's largest man-made lake based on surface area, not quite volume, but the lake does cover 980 square kilometres, and you can fit the whole country of Singapore within the boundaries of this lake. To think of about 5.5 million people all in this area is really quite astonishing. But the lake does cover 60 kilometres north to south, 45 kilometres east to west typically, also classified as an inland sea because it actually does have up to a 3-metre swell. There's around 70 to 90 islands in the lake. That does depend on the exact water level. But the largest island is out on the left-hand side of the aircraft. That is Hagen Island. The locals know this as Crocodile Island. As use imagination once again, it kind of looks like the shape of a crocodile. You might be able to imagine a head and mouth on the left, down to a body and tail to the right. Before the top dam was built in this section, it was just the Ord River and all the small pools along it. It was estimated to be approximately about 350 freshwater crocodiles. On average, about 90% of their eggs would get eaten by predators. But now we've had the top dam built, lakes started filling up, and all these islands have come into existence. And these islands are the perfect breeding grounds for the crocodiles, where their eggs are safe from those predators. And because of this, their population has really boomed, and nowadays we see around 35,000 freshwater crocodiles within the lake. Again, is safe for swimming, as freshwaters are generally considered a lot more timid. But when the lake was filling up, there was an operation called Ord Noah, and this was to rescue a lot of the trapped wildlife from all these islands as it was filling up and becoming isolated. But in general, the wildlife population out here really is flourishing. You see around 26 different species of fish within the lake, most abundant of those being the shovel-nosed catfish. These can grow up to 1.5 metres long, 40 kilograms heavy. On average they're about a foot long. A bit of an ugly looking fish really, but a lot of people also consider them a pest, as they do eat pretty much every other species of fish. And there have been multiple attempts to introduce barramundi to the lake, but has been unsuccessful, as the barramundi fingerlings keep getting eaten by the catfish. But outside the lake now, you see around 270 different species of bird. About a total third of the species you can find in Australia can be found within this area. Even a lot of the marsupials on all these islands are absolutely thriving despite having been isolated for 40 plus years, which is really cool to see. So if you remember a bit earlier on when I was pointing out the Durack Homestead Museum, so the Duracks, they were early cattle pioneers for the Kimberley region, immigrated all the way from Ireland back in 1854, mainly to escape a food and poverty crisis over there. First landed in New South Wales, settled down in Goulburn, built up a lot of their their wealth by the goldfields not too far away, then moved up into Queensland and converted that wealth into cattle stock. And that was Patrick Durack who decided to make the move out here to the Kimberley. Patrick Durack, also known as Patsy, was very known to be spontaneous with his decision making, saw potential for his cattle up here in the Kimberley, deciding to make that move. And that meant covering 4,800 kilometres by foot all the way out here. And he thought it was going to take 6 months, and it'll take them 2.5 years. And you can imagine how difficult it would be mustering cattle over those extreme distances. They wouldn't have been able to come direct here either. They would have had to follow all the river and creek systems, as the cattle would need a constant supply of fresh water. But on the journey he lost about half of his cattle stock, but they eventually made it out here and settled down at the Argyle Downs homestead. And if you'd like to know where that is, it's out on the left wing somewhere. that section just behind us there. It's the deepest part of the lake around where the homestead is. But when the lake was filling up, the Durack family, they wanted to move their whole homestead up to where the museum is today that we saw on the right. And they wanted to pull it apart piece by piece and rebuild it as exact as they could. But they thought they had 9 years to do so, as this is how long it was forecast for Lake Argyle to fill up. However, there's two very strong wet seasons in 1973 and 1974, and the lake ended up filling in just those 2 years. So the Duracks weren't able to get their whole homestead out. Much of it still remains underneath the lake. Divers have been down to go see it, and you can see much of the homestead still in place. But it's certainly well worth a visit if you're heading out to the top dam as well to see the Durack Homestead Museum dedicated to the pioneering spirit of the Duracks. So guys, if you have a look out on the right hand side of the aircraft now, you can see a creek out there that meets Lake Argyle. This is Smoke Creek, the area where diamonds were first discovered in the 1970s by 2 CRA geologists, and they found that further and further along that creek they went, the more and more diamonds they found. But they did decide to keep this a secret. I'll leave that story for you there. We'll pick up on it again later on as we're coming into the Argyle diamond mine.